I was watching a movie when I saw this creature. It was massive, strong, fast, and intelligent. At that moment, I thought, I have that animal too. It's called the hermit crab, but mine are small, weak, and slow. I'll admit, I felt a little sad, but suddenly, my laptop turned on by itself and opened up a website. When I saw what was there, I bought it instantly. 2 days later, the package arrived, but something felt a little off. The box was wet and heavy. I just hoped everything was okay, and when I opened it, he was there waiting for me. As a bonus, the seller had sent me this yellow-legged hermit crab, much larger than others. Let's acclimate them to their new home, a thriving, stable aquarium full of life. I'll use this smaller tank so we can see him better. Basically, I'm just transferring him here, and look how huge he is. I'll have to pick him up by hand, and trust me, with that giant claw, a pinch hurts quite a bit. With this drip line system, the water slowly drips in, drop by drop, balancing his water with the aquarium's. And look how beautiful he is. But wait, it seems his shell is covered in algae. Looking closer, it appears to be cyanobacteria, a sign of chemical imbalance. It can release toxins like cyanotoxins that can wipe out all the microfauna in the tank. Hopefully that's not the case. Before he goes into the aquarium, I'll try feeding him, both to test if he eats and to avoid dirtying the tank. I gave him coral food since hermit crabs are omnivores. They eat everything. They're basically the reef's natural cleaners. But you can see he's having trouble grabbing the tiny pellets. So I'll take some brine shrimp from my own culture. They're perfect as food. If you haven't seen it, there's a video here on the channel where I show the whole process, from buying the brine shrimp eggs to raising them into adults. It was quite a challenge. Check it out later. I tossed some brine shrimp into the tank, but apparently he wasn't interested. Though funny enough, it almost went the other way around. The brine shrimp gave him a little bite. And look how fascinating. Up close, you'll see something like a tiny broom. That's the maxillipede complex, the hermit crab's mouth arm system. It's used to grab, clean, and guide food into the mouth. And finally, I'm releasing our new friend into the aquarium. At first, he just stayed there motionless. But soon another hermit crab came along and climbed the rock to appear bigger than him. Yet the giant didn't care. Right behind him was an animal just as large, Jamie the spider. A crab with sharp claws and a spider-like look. There's a video about him here on the channel. Here you can clearly see the difference between a giant hermit crab, a yellow leg hermit crab, and a mini hermit crab. But do you remember the one that came along with the giant? He wanted to prove he ruled the space now, chased the small one, and when he saw the leader, went straight for it. The leader tried to get close to the giant hermit and got punched. Even so, the newcomer went after the former leader and wanted to fight. And you know what was funny? The giant broke up the fight. Both ended up flipped over as if surrendering to the giant, and look how far out of the shell he stretches. I had to rescue both of them. Okay, I've reached the conclusion I was most curious about. The big guy is peaceful and friendly, but at night, things got tense. He slept facing the spider, each one afraid of the other. Everything turned out fine, but look closely at him. Those algae almost look like hair. On the second day, I captured an amazing moment, a snail cleaning his entire shell. And here he is on the third day, cleaning his shell against a coral. Oh my god, poor coral. He flipped shells and several corals over, squeezed between two torch corals, in short, explored everything. Okay, if he's 10 times bigger, he should at least have extra skills. Let's test his strength, speed, and even intelligence. It all started when I saw him doing what looked like a push-up, or maybe just mimicking the brittle stars on the other side. That's when I realized he might be really strong. So I grabbed a rock and a scale. It weighed exactly 173 grams. Then I weighed the giant hermit crab. Believe it or not, only 60 grams. For this test, we'll need this aquarium and place him inside. The main idea was to put some food in the center and cover it with the rock. It didn't work out very well. If he could push that rock, it would already be amazing, because a 60-gram crab pushing 173 grams is quite something, almost 3 times his weight. Whoa, he managed to push it, and with extreme ease. He kept eating and eating until he actually managed to lift the rock multiple times. Now it's time to take him out and put him back home. I looked at the aquarium and saw a scene that looked straight out of a marine gladiator movie. The big one was holding the yellow leg hermit crab with a terrifying calm. He spun the little one's shell once, then again, and once more. At first, I didn't understand a thing, but as I watched closely, it all started to make sense. The yellow leg hermit crab was the one trying to attack. Yes, the little guy was actually challenging the giant, but the most impressive part wasn't the attack, it was the response. The big one, calm as ever, simply pushed him away with minimal effort, almost as if if he was saying, "Go play somewhere else, little one." The smaller crab tried to act tough. He climbed the rock like he was saying, "Look how big I am." But it didn't work. The answer was always the same: spin, spin, spin. Seeing him get spun around so many times was almost funny. And at the end, it's a good thing the big one only wants peace. Because if he wanted war, well, the ending would have been very different. The next day I noticed something else. He looked huge, way too big for his shell. It was obvious he'd need a new home soon. So I went searching for the most beautiful, spacious, and majestic shell I could find. Something worthy of our Tamatoa. I guess I could call him that, right? When it arrived, I placed him in his separate tank, like I always do, and offered him his new home. A mansion, a fortress. Minutes passed and nothing. He didn't even go near it. He looked lost, almost like he couldn't see. So I decided to help him. Carefully, I placed him right next to the shell. He approached, looked at it, touched it, analyzed it, and then simply turned his back, as if saying, "Don't care." I couldn't believe it. How could he reject the perfect shell? To cheer him up, I decided to give him a treat. And that's when he did something that made me laugh so hard. He grabbed the food so delicately and started eating it like a baby drinking from a bottle. Absolutely hilarious. Then I looked back at the aquarium and he was walking without a shell. Yeah, completely exposed. I admit I had never seen a hermit crab like that before. He looked like a bizarre mix between a spider and a lobster, a creature from another planet. But what intrigued me most was something I discovered by observing closely. At the back of his body, he has a pair of hidden, almost invisible legs that he uses to anchor himself inside the shell. It's like having extra arms, designed just to build his own armor. That's when the panic hit me. I didn't know if he was sick, if the old shell had gotten too small, or if something was wrong with the environment. He started walking back and forth non-stop like he was on a mission. It looked like he was searching for something. And then he found it. A tiny shell left behind by a turbo snail, those little sea snails that clean algae from the tank. But there was a problem. The shell was ridiculously small. Even so, he insisted. He tried to squeeze into it several times, twisting his body in a way that was both funny and concerning. For a moment, I laughed, but then I realized the danger. Without protection, he was completely vulnerable. So I acted fast. I grabbed his old shell and placed it right in his path. He stopped, looked, and without a second thought, went back inside, carefully fitting himself in, just like returning home. 3 days later, I decided to try a new experiment, this time an intelligence test. After all, he's the biggest one, right? So theoretically, he should be the smartest too. Or at least that's what I wanted to believe. The idea was simple. This is coral food, and he absolutely loves it. The plan? Put a little inside a pipette and see what happens. Here was the logic. If he's smart, he'll squeeze the pipette and the food will come out. If he's not so bright, he'll just keep trying to bite it or pinch the air, completely clueless. All right, pipette ready, time for the truth. Total silence. I placed the pipette right in front of him. He looked, stopped, and stayed completely still. For a second, it looked like he was thinking, or maybe judging my life choices. I'm not sure. "Come on, buddy, think," I said, but nothing. Then suddenly, he took a step, then another. He got closer and squeezed. Wow, the food came out. And the most impressive part, he didn't press on the food, which means he understands how it worked. He knew exactly what he was doing. At that moment, I swear I celebrated like crazy. It was like, yes, he did it. My crab is a genius. I laughed by myself for a good while that day. And honestly, who would have thought? Among all the creatures in the aquarium, he really does seem like the smartest one. About 5 days later, something really strange happened. I looked at the tank and he wasn't moving. My heart froze. I was almost sure he was dead. But then I looked to the side and there he was. Normal, alive, moving. Except at the same time, he was also there. Dead. Two identical bodies side by side. I was like, what? He cloned himself? For a few seconds, it felt like a sci-fi scene, the crab that duplicated itself. But soon I understood what was really going on. Hermit crabs have a kind of natural armor called an exoskeleton, a hard shell that protects their body, a true biological shield. But here's the thing, this armor doesn't grow with them. So when they get bigger, the exoskeleton starts to feel tight, and that's when something incredible happens, a process called molting. During molting, the crab shields its own exoskeleton, a perfect copy of itself, and forms a new, larger, stronger body ready to keep growing. In other words, he didn't die, nor did he clone himself. He simply changed armor to keep evolving. And seeing what happened live, it was like witnessing the birth of a new creature. Weird, but absolutely fascinating. After a few days of rest, he was finally ready. Time for the last and most awaited test, the speed test. I prepared everything. The tank was cleared out, ready for him to show off his underwater running power. And of course, here are the competitors. The idea was simple. Place their favorite food on the right side of the aquarium, put them all on the left side, and see who gets there first. Sounds easy, right? Not when you're dealing with hermit crabs. On one side, we've got the mini hermits, small, agile, but with short legs. On the other side, the giant Tamatoa, the king of the tank, with huge legs, but let's say not always the most coordinated. Who would win this epic race? On the first attempt, Tamatoa got distracted. On the second, again. On the third, he found a rock and stopped to stare at. And on the fourth, well, distracted again. We couldn't go on like that. We needed a fair competition. That's when I had a brilliant, or completely insane idea. An official race with every hermit crab in the tank. A smaller aquarium divided with a glass panel. We'd put all the competitors here. The self-proclaimed owner of the tank, the mini hermits, the former king of the tank, and of course, our titan Tamatoa. 7 competitors, 1 prize. The food on the right side. And Tamatoa was already there, restless. In position, 3, 2, 1, go! Tamatoa shoots ahead, but the pink shell mini comes charged. Tamatoa gives him a shove and pulls him back. They clash, shell against shell. The pink mini takes the lead. Tamatoa slips, recovers, tries to catch up. Meanwhile, the strong one is already flipped upside down, literally out of the race. At the back, 2 mini hermits are still fighting each other, neither moving an inch. The tiny one hiding under Tamatoa's shell finally comes out and starts advancing, but not for long. Tamatoa shows up and moves him aside as if saying, "That food's mine, buddy." Meanwhile, the old tank leader is still trying to flip himself over. Spoiler, he doesn't make it. And the minis keep battling fiercely, shell against shell. I even had to intervene. I helped the yellow-legged crab get back on his feet. But Tamatoa saw that and wasn't happy. He pushed him again. In the end, pink shell mini crab in first place, Tamatoa in second. But honestly, Tamatoa, I think you got robbed here, huh? Oh, and one thing I almost forgot to tell you. He finally found the white shell. Just like the channel members who start with the white shell hermit badge, in the second month it turns yellow, and so on like karate belts, until you become a black shell master hermit. The coolest part? Everyone will see your badge in the comments and know you're a veteran member of the colony. That helps keep the channel active, bring in amazing new creatures, and maintain them all in a perfect environment. Members also get to follow the animals grow, see the new corals, watch the changes in the tank, and even help name the next resident. If you'd like to become part of our colony, the link's in the description or right here on YouTube. I'll see you in the next video you choose from Reefverse. See you soon.